Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
I think there's lots of advantages for me. I was never a 154 fighter anyway. I was weighing in with my clothes on at 149, and I think that's the heaviest I've ever weighed in. So a 147 is comfortable. But also I had to build up to be a little bit more comfortable at 154 and be able to punch the bigger girls off. And I think I will bring that power down with me. Power's always been one of my assets. But you know, like I say, I keep adding things to my game and strings to my bow, and you know, one day I'll be almost complete.
Unified junior middleweight champion turned welterweight contender Natasha Jonas will be in action this weekend, vying to become a two-weight world champion opposite the ring Candy Wyatt for the newly vacated IBF title. And she's quite right.
How many times have you heard me say, in spite of her winning all those belts at junior middle, she's not a true junior middle?
She has the talent and ability to compete with some of the more solid junior middleweights out there, some of the best junior middleweights, and she has had success, but that doesn't make her a true junior middleweight. Natasha Jonas is a fighter who used to campaign as low as super featherweight, sporting a professional record of 13 wins with 2 losses, 1 draw, 8 knockouts, having only ever been knocked out once.
Once in 16 professional contests.
Shock upset loss to Brazil's own Vivian Obanoff many years ago. She has since rebounded off that loss in a big way.
She'll be opposite the ring Candy Wyatt Saturday, who sports a professional record of 11 wins with 4 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 15 professional bouts.
So knocked out 2 times, could be 3 on Saturday on the undercard of Marshall versus Cruz Dezern.
Candy Wyatt, one of the more experienced fighters at or around these weights. She's been around the block.
Shared the ring with the likes of Cristina Leonardatu, Alma Ibarra, Jessica McCaskill. She's currently coming off a win, a split decision win over Kirsty Babington, who up until that point was on a hot streak, a winning streak.
Candy Wyatt ended that.
Will she end Natasha Jonas's winning streak? I don't get the sense that she will, though. Candy Wyatt, she's no squirrely amateur. She's formidable in spots.
And again, so is Natasha.
Natasha Jonas, who's currently on a 4-fight winning streak since having dropped a decision to Katie Taylor 2 years ago in 2021. Currently, Natasha's coming right off that win over Marie-Eve Dicaire at junior middleweight. Marie, who has since retired.
Natasha retired her.
Now she looks to become a champion this upcoming weekend opposite the ring Candy Wyatt. What does Candy bring to the table that might trouble Natasha Jonas? Well, Candy's one of the more solid fighters at or around these weights, one of the more experienced fighters, and mid-range to inside, if she can get there.
She's got some good short hooks, some good short punches.
Don't know the exact tale of the tape between the two fighters, but I feel like Candy Wyatt has the shorter arms of the two, between her and Natasha Jonas. And shorter arms in the pocket allows a fighter to string together combinations a little bit more quickly.
Quicker than a fighter with longer arms who needs more room to work.
Caveat for Candy is that getting mid-range to inside on Natasha, it isn't easy. Natasha shows a very good jab.
A good backhand.
Fighting out of the southpaw stance, leading with a right hand in order to set up her left, and Natasha Jonas has a very strong left hand.
Throws the snappier punches of the two.
For me and my money, Natasha Jonas lets go of those straight shots from the outside, coming in with more torque than Candy Wyatt. Those long levers, those extremities.
Yeah.
So even though Candy Wyatt throws good short punches on the inside, getting inside on Natasha will prove difficult because of that jab.
Jab in the straight.
The more fundamental combinations in the sport of boxing, and a bit of a signature for Natasha Jonas, who's very effective.
Very good at landing that backhand.
It's just like Natasha Jonas said, she's always been an exceptionally strong puncher. Even up there at junior middleweight, she had enough power to keep the big girls off of her, enough power to get their respect. I think she'll get Candy's.
Yeah.
Candy Wyatt, who is no outside fighter, outside jabber. The majority of the fight, she's trying to make her way mid-range to inside to let punches go and put them together.
She can be caught.
She can be stopped. Jessica McCaskill, recent memory, at least 2 fights ago, Jessica McCaskill was able to force a stoppage in her fight with Candy Wyatt. I think that Natasha Jonas,
She's more calculated than Jessica.
Jessica's a pressure fighter, looks to overwhelm her opponents with volume, whereas Natasha, she's more the boxer-puncher, uses the boxing to set up the punching,
Big punches.
does more punch picking.
I feel like her straight punches are her best punches from the outside coming in.
Mid-range to inside, she is a little bit more vulnerable, though getting mid-range on her could prove difficult as her opponent will come under heavy fire.
That half step back.
Taking a half step back to set up a counter shot on an advancing opponent.
Tasha's got 2 good legs under her.
Feel like she's gonna walk Candy Wyatt into something. She's gonna walk her into something hard.
Give Tasha the edge in speed, the edge in power.
Mobility, athletic ability.
Tasha may be 39 years old, but she doesn't look it.
147 may be a better weight for her. A weight where she can still have the same power she had at 154, but she'll be a little bit sharper, a little bit crisper.
Not carrying as much weight into the ring as she did as a junior middleweight, which I specified. She's not a true junior middleweight. She can hang.
She is a naturally smaller fighter. I think she'll be sharper as a welterweight. And I like Natasha Jonas to win this weekend. I like her to win by way of knockout.
I think she's going to stop Candy Wyatt and, in effect, become a 2-division champion.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, on the heels of this past weekend's action, Eddie Hearn on Canelo's PBC deal, there will be an investment from DAZN to fill the void. Berlanga will be a part of it. Edgar Berlanga, who was in action this past weekend against Jason Quigley, mixed reviews about how he looked, how he performed.
Compared to how he's been looking and how he's been performing.
Canelo Alvarez revealed 2 days prior to Berlanga Quigley that his next fight will take place in September on Showtime pay-per-view. The timing of the Canelo deal will allow Berlanga to have the type of fights people want to see to prove his worth. Matchroom's Eddie Hearn told BoxingScene.com and other reporters this is going to open the door to other fights. It's going to be interesting. It was agreed by all involved parties upon Berlanga signing to Matchroom earlier this spring that he would need at least 2 high-profile wins before he could earn the right to campaign for a shot at Mexico's Alvarez. That point was emphasized repeatedly by Hearn.
Now that Canelo's crossed over to the PBC side of things for the next 3 fights, it's not looking like Edgar will get that opportunity.
Virtue of signing Edgar Berlanga to Matchroom is that it allows Matchroom to stage shows for him in the tri-state area, in New York, where there is a rather large Puerto Rican contingent that is fiercely loyal to their fighters.
Oscar De La Hoya wanted to sign Edgar Berlanga. They were both in pursuit of him as soon as he became a network and promotional free agent.
But in the end, he ended up going with Eddie Hearn. And Eddie specified he would need at least 2 high-profile wins before he could earn the right to campaign for a shot at Mexico's Alvarez. That point was emphasized repeatedly by Hearn from the day he signed the popular super middleweight contender and throughout Fight Week. The same long-term vision is shared by Berlanga, who had his own hit list of future options that didn't include the divisional king. Canelo signed a 3-fight deal with the PBC, so I was like, all right, fuck it. What the fuck are we gonna do? Berlanga noted before revealing exactly what his team plans to do. We've got guys like Munguia, Golovkin, John Ryder that can be made quickly.
The name of John Ryder was recently attached to a potential Jaime Munguia fight.
Heard rumors and rumblings about that fight last week. It's certainly a fight that can happen. And if John Ryder really wants that fight, I don't think Matchroom and Eddie Hearn would stand in the way. But I also think that if they can put him in the ring with Edgar beforehand, they will.
They also mentioned Gennady Golovkin, former unified middleweight champion Gennady Golovkin, but we don't know that this guy doesn't retire.
As well as Jaime Munguia. Jaime, who is with Golden Boy Promotions and Zen for Boxing, but fights exclusively on DAZN through that promotional alignment.
Looked very human in his last fight with Sergey Derevyanchenko.
A common opponent between him and Gennady Golovkin, Jaime Munguia, Gennady Golovkin. There will be an investment from DAZN to fill that void in the schedule, Hearn said. It's not just one night, it will be multiple nights. Edgar Berlanga will be a part of it. Munguia, John Ryder, Billy Joe Saunders have been calling him out, or the Gennady Golovkin fight. All those fights are possible, and now that they don't have Canelo Alvarez to schedule fights for, Canelo Alvarez to pay, that opens up the budget to make several other fights, because that's how much money that kid makes.
What you pay that guy for one fight, you could schedule several other fights for several other fighters, Edgar Berlanga included.
Eddie Hearn has aspirations of putting him in the ring with Jaime Munguia on the premise of the Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry. To that, Oscar De La Hoya, who promotes Jaime Munguia this side of the border, said, "You couldn't deliver Edgar Berlanga to Canelo, and now you're throwing Munguia's name out there. Good luck." To which Eddie Hearn replied, "I think it's a great fight for the fans, but I'll speak to your bosses at DAZN, and we will come back to you." To which Oscar responded, "It has nothing to do with DAZN. You have no fighters to work with."
But you do?
As stated, there was a rumor last week I saw in reference to a Munguia versus Ryder fight. John Ryder, who's a Matchroom fighter.
Keep up with that sassy attitude. Maybe Matchroom doesn't make that guy available to you.
Maybe they get him a rebound fight on the undercard of one of their upcoming fights en route to an Edgar Berlanga fight.
Maybe.
Oscar De La Hoya had a famed career as a professional boxer and some success as a promoter, but he's the kind of guy who'd cut off his nose despite his face. He's been ripping Eddie Hearn about Canelo's departure from Matchroom as if it in any way benefits him.
It doesn't benefit his promotional outfit. It doesn't benefit his broadcast partner. It doesn't benefit Oscar or Golden Boy in any way that Canelo's left.
Canelo leaving Matchroom for PBC was under far more amicable circumstances than when he left Golden Boy Promotions, yet Oscar De La Hoya has taken it upon himself to rib Eddie Hearn.
I don't know why.
Just being petty, being catty, which is characteristic of Oscar De La Hoya and who he deems his adversaries for years. That went on with Floyd Mayweather and Al Heyman's PBC. Now he's got an axe to grind with Eddie Hearn.
Why?
It's likely because when Canelo Alvarez left Golden Boy Promotions, look at where he went. Look at who he chose. He chose Eddie Hearn. And so did Edgar Berlanga.
Edgar, who said, De La Hoya's a crazy guy. One day, he's your friend. The next day, he wants to talk shit about you.
That sounds about right.
Oscar's got to shut his mouth, man. Eddie's the best in the business. People don't understand. Eddie came from the UK. He came from another side of the fucking world, and he's taken over. He has taken it over so rapidly.
You see Eddie Hearn's competition often ribbing him. Not exclusive to things Oscar De La Hoya says. Bob Arum, Lou DiBella,
Leonard Ellaby.
some of their sympathizers in the form of Rick Glacier, who regularly take shots at Eddie Hearn, accusing him of being inept and not understanding the American market. But for Canelo Alvarez's last
Seven
out
of Canelo Alvarez's last 8 fights were promoted by Matchroom, and they were successful fights, very big events. They broke the indoor attendance record in America.
that was with the Billy Joe Saunders fight. With the Gennady Golovkin trilogy, they sold over 1 million pay-per-views.
In spite of what some boxing journos might have you believe via their sources that they can't even name, DAZN themselves confirmed it cracked 1 million buys.
Canelo Alvarez's last fight, his successful homecoming years away from his motherland of Mexico, they turned a John Ryder fight into an event that sold approximately 450,000 pay-per-view buys.
Over 50,000 screaming fight fans in attendance. Needless to say, they weren't there to support John Ryder.
Eddie Hearn's competition wants me and you to believe that Eddie doesn't know what he's doing, but the biggest testament to what Eddie is doing, or what he was, is that when Canelo Alvarez became a free agent, he didn't go to any of them. He went
to Eddie Hearn.
This guy should be embarrassed that he didn't go to one of them first. And Oscar, if anything, he should be embarrassed that he fumbled that relationship. He fumbled the relationship with the face of boxing in this country.
De La Hoya's a crazy guy. One day he's your friend, the next day he wants to talk shit about you. Obviously, you've seen what happened with Canelo Alvarez, said Edgar Berlanga.
We see what's currently going on with Ryan Garcia, who is attempting to split from Golden Boy Promotions, and the only way that Golden Boy can keep him is to sue him.
Oscar De La Hoya is in no position to talk about Eddie, to talk about Matchroom.
I mean, seriously, he really isn't.
No, it sounds like he doesn't want to make a Berlanga versus Munguia fight, but if he doesn't, what is he going to set up for Jaime Munguia? You talk about lonesome Eddie, lonesome Jaime, lonesome Oscar.
Canelo Alvarez chose Matchroom over you, so did Edgar Berlanga, and so did your former matchmaker, Roberto Diaz.
You think we don't know? You think we don't know he's making nice with the people over there at Matchroom since leaving Golden Boy Promotions?
Word is out. Edgar Berlanga continued, I had to sit down with De La Hoya right before I signed with Eddie. He's a guy with an itchy Twitter finger. He just wants to type his ass off. Just chill, man. Relax.
Canelo Alvarez, Edgar Berlanga, now Roberto Diaz, all chose Eddie Hearn over Oscar De La Hoya, so you can see why Oscar's got an axe to grind.
Oh, he's not the only one.
De La Hoya, Bob Arum, PBC, they don't want me here.
In reference to Oscar constantly ribbing him, Eddie Hearn said, yeah, he's obviously taking his eye off the ball. He's worried about me, you know? He's losing these fighters. Obviously, he's got the biggest fight of his career coming up in the courtroom with Ryan Garcia. I like Oscar, you know? I've got nothing against him. He's a little bit crazy. I hope he can find some happiness. He's one of my favorite fighters, but he seems to, you know, have this strange attraction to me where he talks about me all the time, Hearn told Bro Bible. De La Hoya is not alone. Over the years, Hearn has exchanged verbal jabs with top-ranked CEO Bob Arum.
Lou DiBella seems to have an axe to grind with him, as does Leonard Ellerby.
The question as to what Matchroom is going to do now that they don't have Canelo to promote.
Well, that opens up the budget in a big way, to whereas maybe you can pour a little bit more money into the pot for a Pro Gray versus Matias fight, or maybe a Juan Francisco Estrada versus Kazuto Ioka fight, getting Kazuto Ioka to come to America.
And what about Better Beef versus Bivol?
Fought to a Better Beef wins his next fight. Maybe Matchroom can make him an offer.
In situations like that, foreign rights to certain fights that may not be otherwise shown in this region of the world, in America, now that the budget's been opened up, perhaps Matchroom, DAZN, can pick up the rights to some of those fights to show them here.
Because the show must go on.
They don't want me here, you know? I'm just a guy from the UK coming over. I mean, we're the only global promotional company in the world, and America is a big market. We're doing 12 to 16 shows here. We've done the biggest shows here consistently over the last few years with Canelo Alvarez and Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano and Bivol and everybody, Hearn said. So I think we're in a great place. We're delivering great value for fights on DAZN. And you know, for me, it's more important to keep moving. Oscar De La Hoya, Bob Arum, PBC, none of them want me here. But I guess it's flattering.
It should be. If they didn't view Eddie as a threat, they wouldn't bother with him.
They wouldn't bother to mention him. They wouldn't cross the street to spit on him. But the effort that goes into taking jabs at Eddie Hearn, it says it all.
And now that they've lost the Canelo Alvarez acquisition, that he's gone elsewhere, the show must go on. Matchroom must crack on.
I feel like in many ways Canelo Alvarez is helping to keep the PBC's head above water, because had he not gone over there, had he stayed on the Matchroom side of things and fought whoever,
what was the PBC gonna do? For David Benavidez, for David Morrell, for Demetrius Andrade, for Jermall Charlo?
Those guys ain't worth no money. I mean, David Benavidez sold next to nothing with Caleb Plant. What do you think he would have sold with David Morrell, a lesser-known fighter?
All you hear people talking about now is how Matchroom's worse for wear since Canelo left.
But Matchroom's got enough to work with, and with the budget opening back up, there are that many more possibilities to what they might do.
Whereas the PBC still has Bob Backish, the Paramount and Showtime merger, to worry about.
They are set to have a very big year this year, but will it turn out to be a day late and a dollar short for Showtime?
Got Canelo.
Do have at least Canelo through next year, but will that be enough?
Got an assembly line of heavy bags for him to punch on, and they can make good money, make good coin.
Bring in good metrics with those fights, but don't get it in your head that Matchroom is a sinking ship just because Canelo crossed over.
Or DAZN.
Matchroom and DAZN have enough to work with globally. They don't have it all riding on just one guy, but in many ways, the PBC does.
They're lucky. They're lucky that Canelo Alvarez went over there. They are, and they're having a great year, or they're set to have a great year.
DAZN ain't the platform that's being merged into a bigger platform due to underperformance. That's Showtime, and that's what you have to think about.
What do you think that Paramount Showtime merge is all about?